give up my government job, join a private company. And it was a big decision at that point of time to give up a government job and, you know, start your career freshly with a private company. And I took that challenge. I took that as I would say, opportunity, not a challenge. And I started my career with this private company as a design assistant. My job was to work with the designers to find out what piece of paper if they have come up with as a design, if how it that to be transferred onto the textile. So would go to the block maker, I would go to the color master, I would go to the fabric processing guy, and I would try to make that paper design transform on the textile. In 1995, I thought I should take one more step. And that step was to start my own company, get myself self-employed. 1995, when I started this company called Rangotri, uh, the idea was to basically see if my knowledge of vegetable dyes, natural dyes, the various chemical printing technologies which I've learned in that private company, if that could be all combined in one place. We initially started working for fashion designers. The idea was that fashion designers come up with very freaky or very unusual ideas. So they were very happy to work with me because I would be equally excited to try to get that effect or to try to get that uh, form on the fabric. There was another big uh, issue which happened in Sanganer, where my workshop was. The High Court, Rajasthan High Court, ordered to close down the printing industry because the water which we were like releasing from the factories, or the effluent which was coming out of our factories, was slowly and gradually contaminating the groundwater. So the High Court said, close down, move this whole uh, factories or whatever workshops to some place where uh, they could start freshly with the with the treatment plant and stuff like that. And it was a big decision. It was a big order, I would say, from High Court, which was affecting close to about 10,000 people. And these 10,000 people were either printers, dyers, blockmakers, tailors, embroiders, people like chaiwalas, thelawalas, rickshawalas, who were directly or indirectly were getting their job, or they're getting the money, or they're getting their livelihood from this community. And this is where the whole concept of Jaipur block uh, came in my mind, where I went to close to about 100 people, and 100 people who were wealthy enough, I would say. They had enough money. They were they were kind of promoters. They were custodian of this craft community. Uh, People exporters. So I went to them and said, can we come together? Can we form like a kind of a club where we can set up our printing workshops and train the water in one common place and treat it commonly? Because to set up a treatment plant, a central effluent treatment plant, which technically is called CETP, was a monumental task. One treatment plant of like reasonable size, which can cater to 20 to 25 units, cost close to about 10 crore. In 2006, we created a company called Jaipur Integrated Textile Craft Park Private Limited. And all these 20 exporters became shareholders in this company, and we pooled in the money. So this is how my, travel, picking up old blocks, started getting into uh, in kind of interest of uh, collecting blocks from all across India. And I would say today I would have the largest collection of old blocks of India. So this is a handwritten book, uh, which is close to about 700 pages. And when I went through this book, I realized it is not done by one person. It is done by three different people uh, in the family, because the handwritten text is slightly different from one person to other. So this whole art of handwritten books was taken away by the printing press. My reason for explaining this was like my exploration with new technique is not replacing the the human skill. My block maker who carves these blocks, if I have a 3D printer or if I have a laser printer, he would spend more time in doing interesting maybe experiments, monitoring these blocks, or discussing with me the repeat or detail or the depth of the carving, all sorts of things, which a computer can't do it, which a machine can't do it. So to sum up, I would say the technology is important as long as you could use human skill, human brain in a better way.
So what I'm now going to present to you on reimagining the modern educational paradigm based on three things. One, all of us, our input in design education. Second, my research on how children learn. And third is on how actually artisans and non-literate communities really understand the world. So this is the has been my research. The real potential of design education, if we are really able to address it, is for self-transformation. Other things are secondary. This is what I feel. Studying design education was extremely important because this is what connected me. First of all, made me understand the fact that children learn and the relation I found between these two. So design education is actually from learning the word to learning the world, from known to the unknown, from conditioning to awakening. See, the speciality of design education is that it's experience based, exploration is there, creativity is there. Our senses function, we are engaging with the world, and to some extent autonomy is respected. So when we engage with the word, written word installs, helps, develops these habits in us, which is two-dimensional habits, which are the activity that we do is that reading, thinking, reasoning, agreeing, disagreeing, imagining, reading, and more the same. So this is what we do. Creation of a virtual two-dimensional space. So our mindset is linear, fragmented, sequential, and compartmentalized. Whereas when you engage with the real world demands a different cognitive system to understand three-dimensional skills, sensing, experience, alertness, observation. So there's a completely new possibility that world actually gives you. And understanding happens in self-organization. Unlike what you do with word is to use reasoning to create an illusion that you have understood. And this is actually simultaneous, holistic, multisensory, and multimodal. Learning is creation of knowledge. It's not a result of teaching, but how does creation of knowledge take place? And learning is a two-way process, as I told you, because what you learn in turn shapes you. Actual creativity is in response to the unknown. Any action that one does in response to unknown is creativity. Curiosity is embedded in all living beings. It's not to be given to anybody. So an interesting video that shows that every living being is curious, know what is happening all around. So it's nothing anthropocentric, it's nothing human centric. Yeah. And questioning, again, our notion of questioning is in the realm of language. When a child touches something and respond, explore it, that is a question and an answer being, executed. Play, again, has been totally misunderstood. Playfulness is a quality in children. See, this is a very interesting thing to look at, how children are playful and what is the process of creation of toys. The child took a bite of a coconut piece. Immediately, he compared that shape to the bull, Nandi bull, the horns, and then he changed it to the moon, the half moon. So this is a very, very interesting process of comparison of how things look alike. So this is also the principle that children use in making toys. So play is the reenactment of experience by recreating and reliving experience. So play again is totally misunderstood by modernity. And toy is the object that is used as props in the process of reenactment of experience. Any object that has some kind of resemblance to the original object is recreated in that context. So actually they don't need toys at all. In fact, when you give a toy, you're destroying a total natural cognitive process. This is a child. One time it was a bus, it was for sitting, so the children doesn't have that fixed idea that this is a toy to be used only for this. Now, I would like to show you what I call as natural pedagogy. Natural pedagogy is teaching without teaching. This is another very interesting video. This is what actually happens in a rural tribal area. That the adult does what they want to do and children observe and learn. The adult has no intention to teach. That is because learning is absolutely natural. Learning is not a choice, learning is natural. I will also quickly show you one of our very, very important research, which is drawing, actually, the real potential of drawing. So the way I look at this is that, experience through playful exploration, through recreation of experience, that is by what we call as play and toy, children understand the real world in terms of three-dimensionality. But drawing is recreation of experience in two-dimensional space. So drawing is a very, very important thing to understand in the present context of where two-dimensional experience is something that we are engaging every time. So this was a fantastic, research that we did. So scribbling can be called as the crawling stage of drawing or the babbling stage of drawing. And observation is, something that they do. So now you can see the progress in one-line drawing to three-dimensionality. So you can see very clear stages in this. Then from word to a story, how from from babbling one sound, how does it grow into? So that's exactly the same kind of approach, process you can see. So now you can see how words to story, how very complex things children attempt. But this is because you don't interfere at all. That's a very, very important thing to, which I'm again and again stressing. Even the word art would completely mislead them because there is no concept of art in children. Art is a modern construct. So what is actually required is from conditioning to awakening, because all of us are potentially genuine. What I mean by genius is actually to be genuine, to be original, to be authentic. This is our nature. And I'm also not talking about spirituality. This is what every child is born with. This is what most rural tribal people are. This is what most uneducated people are. It's only through education that we create all the problems in the modern world, because we alienate us from our biological roots. So just I'm kind of summing up now. Learning is natural. Curiosity is life-given. To learn means to create knowledge. To learn means to shape oneself. The context is the content, the world, and not the word. Language is used for articulation and communication and not for cognition. So this is the key shift that one must understand, that through language, we can only create notions, illusions about knowledge. So design education, this, I think the fundamental shift that is required is from a, it has to move into an attitude. It has to be a transformational process, not as some theory or some rule formula that one picks up, So rethinking foundation is reorientation of content, process, pedagogy, and ambience. And from quantity to quality, unlearning, learning to see, which means, you making use of senses, recovering your natural cognitive process, and ability to create knowledge. This is actually very, very important thing to understand. How do we create knowledge and learning to be?
The environment that I came into in 86 in Rajasthan was very different from the environment now. So, for example, literacy was only 16%, only 16% people, women were literate at that time. And male literacy was probably 30%. And now it's so different. Now more than 50% women in Rajasthan can read and write. And one of the most important components in this area of social design is communication. Early examples of how communities used visuals for communication. And the Kavadiya would go around from place to place looking at, taking this box with him, and he would tell you about your genealogy and the rest of it. So really speaking, social communication, if you want to define it, it's all about information transfer. It's about dissemination. And typically the kind of work that I'm in is surrounds the area of public health. So it could be malaria messages, it could be HIV, it could be a host of other things. And nothing is more relevant to your generation now than COVID, which has struck us. And COVID has used many forms of social communication. Typically, it's wanting you to change your behavior. For example, mask wearing, from non-mask wearing to mask wearing. That is the behavior change, and social communication is all about that. I began to collect pictures from the community, and I developed for myself what we call a picture dictionary. And a picture dictionary helps you to make your own kind of develop your own drawings and develop your own symbols. For example, the picture on one is the way rural communities draw a house. Picture 2 is how pregnancy is shown. Pregnancy is shown as a black dot. Abortion on number 3 is abortion. For example, it will show you, this woman is pregnant and yet she's bleeding. So 100% she's not able to carry through with her pregnancy. So this is how rural communities interpret pictures, and it's there on my website for some of you would like to see or learn more about it. And many learnings come from this. For example, if you look at number 4, and if you look at the hand pump picture, the kind of rules that you have for drawing, perspective, or you would have, on what is it called, eye level views. Those are all things those are Western concepts that we have been taught in the world of, engineering and art. Many communities mix perspectives, mix views like this, and there is no single, eye level view or whatever it is, or 1-point perspective or 2-point perspective. These concepts do not exist in traditional art forms. For example, you can see in the palaces of Rajasthan, you can look at many wall paintings, and none of them will follow the perspective rules or the eye level kind of views. One of my very passionate subjects has been menstruation. So in the early years when we were working in 2003, it was not just enough to tell young people about the process of the scientific explanation of menstruation. This needed to be done because there was a lot of superstition around menstruation. For example, cloth, using a menstrual cloth is still something that I will promote extensively. It's still something that is used by 80% of women in India, which I'm very glad about. Menstruators, let me not use the word women and girls, let me use the word menstruators, those who menstruate. So in those early years, underwear usage was very low. Very few people wore underwear where I was working. So we had to design a product that would go with a practice. So it had to be, a pad had to be designed so you could wear it with a nada, because people were wearing cloth like a langot in place of something to absorb your menstrual flow. Okay, so if you are a designer, you're sitting in your 4 walls of your design studio and you're trying to design a cloth pad for a bunch of young people, it's not going to work. You have to go out there. You have to go out there and learn from them and then transfer it into a design work, get back to them, and then develop your design in a participatory way. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the years. This was 2000, 2003. Easy for you all to say that it's 20 years ago. It has its relevance even now, and that's the reason why I'm even sharing this with you. So for example, if you're talking to young people about anatomy, because that's what you need to talk about as a first step to menstruation, I built on what NID had already done. NID was looking at communication material in layers, give young people give community information in layers. So this is how we were doing it. We were looking at the naked body. First we were covering the body, then we were uncovering the body, and we always had it in layers, so that young people could understand what are the changes in your body, how is your body structure, how does it work. And I had used the cover to as a communication tool, which I'd worked on extensively. So we designed the cloth pads in 2011, 2012, and the design had to be different because it had to respond to the new practice now of wearing underwear, because underwear availability had increased all over South Rajasthan, all over. In fact, I would go so far as to say all over India. And we believe in sustainability. And so my own PhD journey was all about menstruation and sustainability. How do you make the management of menstruation sustainable? So the joy about copyleft is that it reaches places you wouldn't have imagined. And the joy about copyleft is scale. You reach multiple numbers of people. But the catch about copyleft is that once you take the copyleft product from somebody, you can modify it, you can change it, you can do what you want with it, but you have to continue to keep that work copyleft for other people to copy. So you can't take some of my designs, for example, change it, and then say, now I have a copyright on that. No, you got to keep it again open source. Okay, so that's the beauty about copyleft. Jess Judge was a design student from the Glasgow School of Art, and she was doing one semester product design at NID Ahmedabad. So then she, along with us at Jatin Sansthan, she came and said that this is what I want to do. And that's finally, this is the product that she made. And again, she also got some student award somewhere. And this was a washing machine, handheld little, washing machine to wash your cloth pads if you don't want to wash them by hand. Largely, I've given you an overview of social communication because that's the work that I've been involved in. And I have kind of journeyed you through how does social sectors, how do we respond to needs of the community? What is visual literacy? What is visual perception? How do we look at the different perspectives? So largely my work has been around training.
He had actually asked me to cover the topic on creativity in medical sciences. So I've added a little bit of a subtitle to it, which I thought was the whole crux of what I wanted to talk today about, which I always thought in creativity was about taking it from possibility to actuality. And in that particular aspect, looking at how do we shape such frugal and disruptive innovations for medical sciences. And, under this entire thought process, I'm going to today talk a little bit about design health thinking. And what I hope to achieve as a statement of purpose was to actually reiterate the fact, which I've always believed, is that the end goal of education is knowledge. And the goal of that knowledge should be some form of service. So World War III, I think for me, taught me three important things: the psychological impact, the economic impact, and the behavioral impact. Rampant social negativity, loneliness, depression, suicidal tendencies. Economics was a fractured economy with drastic changes, which I think your creative world would have seen much more. Pay cuts, job cuts, and I was talking to our Director General of Police and saying that, sir, next to pockets cuts hone wala hai, because crimes will increase. So the police will be actually on the job more actively. And if you look at it behaviorally, we are the ones who kept saying that screen time bad hai, and actually now we think that screen time is like meditation, like you're busy by yourself, So it's a complete spin of spectrum that we've done from screen time to full time on screen. Problems don't come very easy. It's very, very difficult to get a problem. And believe me, if you get a problem, one single one in your lifetime, I think that's it. That's a jackpot for you. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about when do you do research, when do you do inventions, when do you do innovations, and what's jugaad. And what's the difference between the four? And you need to have a combination of all four of these if you have to have a absolute ridiculous creativity. And believe me, I think all four of these have only one single gene that you require, that is ridiculousness. Unless it's ridiculous, you can't get into this, because every time something disruptive happens, it sounds ridiculous at the first moment. And that's why I love it. That every time I hear something absolutely ridiculous, I kind of take it very seriously, because I say this is something that we need to think about because it's ridiculous. And on a lighter note, I always say one thing: not every ridiculous idea is brilliant, but some of them are. And I don't know if you've heard of this. Do you know how do you differentiate intelligent from stupidity? How do you differentiate an intelligent person from a stupid person? You see, an intelligent person has limitations. A stupid person has no limitations. However, it is only a stupid man who can actually make you think very, very diversely. So I keep a lot of stupid people around me because I feel they inspire me, because they ask me stupid questions. And stupid questions are, I think, the fundamentals of innovations. Because he asked me a stupid question, I went back into the book, because some of the most ridiculous questions are not asked by intelligent people. They are asked by absolutely stupid people who ask you stupid questions. And I went back into the drawing board because of at least 10 of them. And I owe it to those stupid people who asked me such ridiculous questions. And that's when, but I'm, there's one thing selfish about me. I didn't credit them because I found it too stupid to actually credit the stupid man about this great innovation that he did for me, But having said that, stupid people are important in your life around you because they're crucial game changers for you. So please keep stupid people around you. Don't get angry that he's stupid, because I think that's the inspiration you need to have. And I think every organization, every institution, every group, every team has stupid people, but please respect them. I don't think you should be irritating them. Don't disturb them. Let them do their job, because it's you who are not getting the right point in these people. And I believe this, and I live with a lot of them, and I respect them a lot. And I believe that my work is going on because of all these people. I don't know, how do I get a brilliant idea? And that was like a real tough question. I said, see, I don't know. But I said to him, there's one thing I can tell you, that if you take up one patient's problem and live through your life with that question, you will be flooded with ideas. The problem with us is that we are searching for a solution in the market. We are searching for a market solution. Somebody comes and says, "Arey, market mein ye product ka itna particular potential. AI has a 3 billion potential. I think we should do something in AI." So that's the most ridiculous way to approach the problem. The question is, what is it that you want to solve? And I always believe in medical sciences, I take one patient's problem. If you can take one patient's problem, it has a soul to it. You can take this individual problem and take that to masses. And masses can become markets. But the reverse is not true. That you look at the markets and based on that, you study the masses and then you come up with a product, which is what many companies do and they don't succeed. And believe me, that's called the fundamental mantra of failure. Why creativity is required in medicine today? Because medicine is an area where things are very slow. And for me, this inspiration came from these throat cancer patients whom I used to meet, who couldn't talk. So they have a hole in the throat over here, they can't speak. And so they breathe from the throat. Like you and me can do this breath, they can't do. They have a hole here and this is their new nose. So they breathe through this particular part of the nose and that's their new nose. Then they can't speak. So I actually thought that speech and communication in our society was a basic tenet that sustains life force. And it's not only a right, but it's also a right to peace, justice, dignity. I thought that God gifted every one of us with a free voice box. And, we said only one group will talk and another group won't talk, which I thought was something that we disturbed in the fundamental principles of nature and creation. So the current machines, there were two in the world, which costed somewhere between 45,000 to 1.5 lakhs. And my fundamental question was, what can I do to solve this problem? And I invented this first prototype in 2015, the $1 device, which actually gives people a gift to speak so that they can speak again. Because people whom I was dealing with were schoolies, workers, laborers, all the small rickshaw drivers, all of them who couldn't afford these costs. And this was a recurring cost at 6 monthly. Now, this is a bank manager who's speaking with this device. I hope this is going to be having an audio.
I'm from Balki, Bidar district, Karnataka. Sir, it is better than earlier speech and I am feeling comfortable.
Very good. So this is a bank manager from a small village in that area. The point I wanted to make is that there's a whole long story around this whole thing, but today I have more than 700 such patients speaking from across the country and from other parts of the world also. Biotechnology will need to come together for industry and research to join together. We've had various innovations that I've done. I have about 18 patents today on various innovations that I've done from a tracheostomy tube, which I did because one of my patients had his tube blocked in a village, and I created a tube that doesn't get blocked, to drone bot, which is a drone with a robot, to a drug which actually I've converted a complicated drug into a tablet, to some blockchain technologies which I've used as softwares, to some theories that I've patented on how cancer is caused, to a new cancer vaccine that I'm developing, to some extended reality glasses that we are working for surgical side. This is a retractor that we have developed for robotic surgeries. And this is a glove that we've done. We call it Inji. Basically, it's a glove talk. It's basically, it converts your gestures into speech. This is for patients in the ICU who can't speak. The reason I listed out all this is to tell you that we are not constrained by the discipline of rigor, but by the limits of the purpose to make a difference that actually limits our imagination and that defines our imagination. So I would urge all of you to re-look at, so the question is to move from ambition to purpose and define the path to fail successfully. You know, like I started in the beginning, the goal of education is knowledge, and that goal of knowledge should be some form of human service. And the most important lesson in this is the freedom to fail. The most important thing that you need to be given is not to ask a weekly report from every member of the innovation team, because it's very complex. It's like poetry. You can't tell him that do a poetry on this, you know. And I must give you the example of this this particular medication. You know, there was in a Welsh hamlet in England, there was a clinical trial of a drug going on cardiac related thing which failed, and this particular drug failed very badly, and the company Pfizer decided to withdraw the drug. So they had to actually go back on field and take the drug back from the people whom they had distributed the drug to in that particular village. And to their surprise, when they explained to the candidates who had taken that drug in the clinical trial to return the drug back, they refused. They said, we don't want to give the drug back. And that was quite funny for this particular company, because they actually thought that this drug had failed, and they were kind of surprised on why would the gentleman whom they had given this particular cardiac drug to not return the drug back. And then they realized that these people were actually feeling well, and that is how Viagra was born. So Viagra was born out of a failed cardiac drug that actually showed that it had a side effect of treating sexual dysfunction. So Viagra was born out of a failed project of the drug of cardiac toxicity. So similarly, if you look at failed innovations, the most interesting one I think of is looking at bacterial colonizations. You know, one of the scientists actually was working on it for months and months to try and solve this problem. And one day his wife insisted that he take a break. So under pressure, he actually took a month's holiday and left his lab the way it is. And when he came back, he realized a lot of colonizations had changed. And that's when Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. Never focus on the problem. He says the more you focus on the problem, the more confused you'll get. He says sometimes look away from the problem. And he said, you know, see what no one else sees, see what everybody chooses not to see out of conformity, fear, or laziness, but see the world anew each day. And for me, that's the fundamental mantra of creativity, and that's the fundamental mantra of philosophy. So if you think something is impossible, do not disturb the person trying to achieve it. Leave them alone. That I think is the best thing you can do. If you think something is impossible, don't disturb the person. Just leave him alone. And lastly, I would like to close by saying that never doubt that a group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And that's Margaret Mead talking about it. Thank you very much.